8 years ago, I got my hands on one of these, an Arduino UNO, and I've built countless projects with it since then. But I always had this one burning question in my mind: is it possible to build one on my own? Thanks to its open source nature, you can go to the website, find all the components, and assemble it on your own. But Arduino just made things much simpler with Arduino Make Your UNO kit. Now, the kit has everything you need to build your Arduino UNO, starting from the PCB, all the components, and a very good documentation to get started. So welcome everyone to the channel. This is Rishikesh Sheshpule, and let's get started building an Arduino UNO. Now this is the Arduino Make Your UNO kit. Let's take a look inside. Inside the kit, we have the PCB for the Arduino UNO, a debug circuit, and just a test circuit for testing out your soldering skills before getting started on the main board. And we also have all the components needed for building our Arduino UNO. And And we also have a synthesizer shield for this particular Arduino UNO, which we'll be taking a look in another video. So today we'll just get started building our Arduino UNO. Now if you go to the documentation, we can see that they have very well documented instructions for building your Arduino UNO, including a 3D viewer with soldering instructions. Now first, let's get started building this Arduino keychain, which is essentially a test circuit for practicing your soldering skills. So for this, we need obviously the PCB and the kit with Make Your UNO components, which is labeled number 1. Now inside this, we have a lot of components. So what we'll be needing for the Arduino keychain is a 1 kilo ohm resistor, a 1 mega ohm resistor, and a couple of capacitors just for testing out our soldering skills. If you take a closer look at the PCB, it is clearly labeled which components goes where. So we'll take our soldering iron, all the components, and let's get started soldering it on. And there we have it. We have built our first Arduino keychain. Now if you look, there are heart-shaped holes available here. So these are just for you to practice your soldering skills if you're new to this, or else you can just get started and solder all the other components. Now again, this is just for a practice, and these components do not serve any purpose here, but you can just show off your Arduino keychain to others. Now let's jump on to the next PCB that we have here, which is a debug circuit. So essentially this is an LED with a resistor to maybe do an LED blink once we are done with our board. So let's get started building that. Now for the debug circuit, we just need the PCB, a yellow LED, a 1K resistor, and this pair of jumper wires. And then we can just solder it on, or you can look at the documentation online. So we'll just get started with that. All right, so we are done with the debug circuit as well. So let's just test it out if it's working or not. Now I couldn't find a battery, so we'll just test it out with the Arduino Giga R1 Wi-Fi board. So I'll just plug it in and we'll just connect this to the ground and 5 volt and check if it's working. And yes, there we have it. We have our debug circuit working. So now let's get on to the most exciting part that we all been waiting for, which is building the Arduino UNO board. Now this is going to take much more time as we have much more components to solder on. So let's get started one by one soldering on each of those components. So first we will solder on 1K resistors onto the board. Now if you're confused with where to put the components, it's labeled on the side here what goes where, so it's easy to find which components you have to put on which of these points. Now once we are done with that, we'll just solder on the other resistors as well. Okay, now that's completed. We'll just move on to putting on the diode D1 right here. Okay, once that's also completed, we'll move on to putting in the 16 megahertz crystal on the Y1 spot right here. Once we have that in place, we'll move on to placing the LEDs LD2, LD3 and LD4. Now once we have that, we'll just put on the green LED which goes on to the L5 slot here. Now once that's done, we'll move on to soldering on the capacitors. Now we'll move on to putting on the push button. Now let's move on to the USB-C to serial adapter. So this one actually uses a USB-C. So this is the USB-C to serial adapter which will solder on next. Now we'll put on MOSFET. Now we'll put on the 3.3 volt LDO, which goes on YouTube right here. Now we'll move on to putting on the rest of the two capacitors, which goes at C6 and C7. These are 47 microfarad capacitors which will go on C6 and C7. Now we'll place the rest of the 100 nanofarad capacitors on the board. Now we'll put on the 5 volt LDO, which goes at U3 right here. Alright, so next we'll put on the socket for that Mega 328P. Now we can mount the pin connectors which goes on both sides. And now we can mount the ICSP connector. Okay, now that's done. We can mount the barrel jack. And there we have it. We are almost at the end. Now the last piece of the puzzle is that Mega 328P microcontroller. Once we put it in, we'll plug it into a computer and check if it works. There we have it, our very own Arduino UNO. Now let's rig it out of this enclosure and then we'll plug it onto the computer and see if it works. And maybe we can also take out the keychain as well. There we have it, the Arduino keychain, which you can show it off. And then we'll also finally take out the debug circuit. Now we'll click on our computer, pull up Arduino IDE, and we'll see if it works. Once you plug it into your computer, you can see that an LED will be blinking, which is this one right here. So for a test code, we will just go to the documentation provided by Arduino for this particular Arduino Make Your UNO kit, and then just copy and paste this code. This sketch is designed to turn on and off all the pins on the board, and we'll select the board as we have the Arduino UNO detected, and then we'll just upload and see if it works. And there we have it. We have successfully uploaded the code onto our very own Arduino UNO, and now we'll just test it out with the debug circuit we just created a while back. So we'll just plug in the black wire to the ground and the red to any of the digital IOs. So let's say, for example, I connect it to pin number 10. And there we go. We have the LED blinking. Now we can also check it for each of the digital pins and the power pins that we have on our board. But it is working, and there we have it, our very own Arduino UNO. And there we have it. We just built our very own Arduino UNO from scratch. Now, if you like this video, please do like and subscribe. Till the next time we meet, this is Rishikesh Pillai signing off.